This is Dee.
And this is Shelby.
And this is Bumpin Gums. Welcome back to another episode of Bumpin Gums, which is a info dump of information.
Woohoo!
And this month we are doing Black History information.
Yes.
Because it is Black History Month.
Blickety, blickety, black.
Blickety, blickety, black. So we're going to do that. We're just going to give you guys a bunch of information about this month. We're trying to pull of information that not most people are super familiar with.
Yeah.
Some of these things are going to be familiar, but some of these things are not. So
yeah.
we want to share that with you, information with you guys.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
You can go first.
Okay, so starting off, we want to start off strong with Lake Lanier. We want to start at this lake is snatching bodies.
Got bodies.
Snatching
bodies on bodies on
They're
bodies.
like, we're going to take these white people out.
Take them out.
Anyways, it's actually a very nice vacationing spot. All sorts of stuff. It's very pretty to look at. A lot of people do vacation there. It actually brings in a shit ton of revenue for Georgia. But it's haunted, at least according to people, and that's speculation. And here's the reason why. You can't talk about Lake Lanier without talking about Forsyth, Georgia. And you can't talk about Forsyth, Georgia without talking about Oscarville, Georgia. So let's go ahead and get started with that. This is going to take you back all the way to 1912, right? 1912 was a time in Forsyth. Okay, 1912 was a time in Forsyth,
America.
And just America in general. But so we're gonna do a timeline, right? So what ended up happening to get started on it is Lake Lanier actually is it's a lake that submerged an entire city called Oscarville, Georgia. It was primarily a black community. The lake did form, I believe they created the dam in 1947, and then the lake was actually built in the 1950s. So, but Oscarville is actually still under that lake. There are still buildings and homes and stuff that are dilapidated. Obviously, it has got grave sites. It's got all sorts of stuff. So there's a reason why they think it's haunted. But again, you can't talk about Lake Lanier without talking about Forsyth and Oscarville. So let's get started. So on September 5th, a white woman claims a black man did a B&E. She was like, hey, my hubby's not here. He out. And a black man came in and assaulted me and then left. Didn't try to steal nothing, just came in, broke in the house and assaulted me and then just left, right? So she pointed her grubby little fingers over to Tommy Howell. Tommy Howell was young and he was black and he was very much a part of the small community at the time, black people. And so it was actually him. All of a sudden, it was one black man. First, it was one black man. And then she was like, actually, no, I'm just kidding. There was like five. There was like five that came up in here, right? So you have Tommy Howell, Isaiah Perkle, Joe Rogers, Fate Chester, and Johnny Bates. They all get arrested. No evidence. No evidence. But they all get arrested, right?
Didn't need any back in the day.
Didn't need
if you were black, you were wrong.
Yep, exactly. So white people form a mob because white people. And then while they're sitting in jail, right, Reverend Grant Smith pulls up and was like, y'all tripping. Then this mob of white people was approximately about 100 white people. So, and they pull up to the jailhouse and they were like, the fuck, why are these people in here? Blah, 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 what they do to this woman, so on, so on, so on, so on, right? And the sheriff and deputy step in and end up sheltering Reverend Grant Smith because Reverend Grant Smith came out and was like, hey, this sorry-ass white woman need to stop talking her shit. I mean, he said it nicer than that, but he literally was like, this sorry-ass white woman need to stop talking her shit. Y'all tripping. He did say sorry white woman.
Yeah.
He said this sorry white woman.
Yeah.
I just added the rest of it.
No, that's cool.
But
it was implied.
Yeah. But he was like, this sorry-ass white woman need to stop. And these 100 men was out here and they was like, we gonna beat the fuck out of you. So they start whooping on Reverend Smith, right? And the sheriff and then finally come out after he's brutally beaten and was like, all right, we're going to take you in and shelter you, right? That is going to be September 5th. Keep this timeline with me, all right? September 5th. Then black people was out here barbecuing and they was over at the Methodist church, right? Which was, it was called the Colored Methodist Church at the time. And they was having a whole community thing and they was barbecuing and they heard about what was going on at the jailhouse. And they was like, oh, hell no, we need to go up there and we need to go find out what's going on with these people because a lot of people at this barbecue were families and friends and stuff like that.
These are our cousins is them. We got to go see what our cousins was doing.
Exactly. So these people were like, we need to go check out what's happening. So word gets around Forsyth. This is happening in Forsyth, Georgia, by the way. It's not happening in Oscarville yet. It's in Forsyth, Georgia. So which is only just a wee bit over from Oscarville at the time. So anyway, so this is going on. This group of black people who just want to go and support their fellow man and figure out what's happening and get them out of jail. They go over there, and in white people fashion, everybody freak out. They start telling everybody, oh, they've got bombs, they've got firearms, they're torching shit, they're doing all sorts of stuff. So And white people fashion, they come in with an even bigger crowd, right? So it was about 500 white people who ended up pulling up, right? The mayor was like, go the fuck home. They ended up calling in the National Guard to try to like figure things out and like sort the peace and blah, 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 blah. And then white people was like, no, because we privileged, we're going to stay right here and we're going to whoop y'all's ass. So that ended up happening. The National Guard ended up being able to break it up, so on and so forth. These 5 men stay in jail. They stay in jail. So now on September 8th, 1912, this is the only white person name I'm going to give you because she did pass away. Her name is May Crow. She was 18 years old and she goes missing. They do a whole search party. By September 9th, they find her in the woods. She has been sexually assaulted and her throat's been slit. But there's no real evidence and so on and so forth. I mean, also think about it. It's 1912. What evidence are they doing, right? What evidence are they doing? I mean, come on. There was a mirror that was found that they claimed was found in the woods, but it wasn't near her body. They don't even determine how close it was or if it was in proximity or anything like that. So in weird ass 1912 fashion, they pick this girl up and they bring her home. She bleeding whole from her throat.
I mean, they
picked her ass up and they was like, let's take me home. Yeah. You gotta take me home.
Let's take her home.
We gonna take me home. So they end up taking them home. An Oscarville resident, Ernest Knox, ends up being accused. There was a predominant white figure in the community who came up to him and was like, yo, is this your mirror? And he was like, no, that's not my mirror. And they was like, no, this was your mirror. And then he was like, okay, maybe it was my mirror. I was like, I don't know. Like, they were literally pressuring him into saying that it was his shit, right? And Knox literally had just moved into town. He was brand spanking new. He came in and moved with his cousin, the Daniels. And he moved in with that. I can't remember if it's Daniels plural or Daniel. I think that was written both ways. Okay. But I'm going to say Daniel. So that he came and moved in with their last name was Daniel. He came and moved in with them. Okay. So he just moved into town. He's brand spanking new. And just a super side note, there are 513 residents. According to the 1910 census in the New Bridge district, there was 513 residents in total, and out of those 513, there was 37 black folks. That's it. So nobody was looking at any other white people there. Out of all the white people that was there, nobody else did anything. They just had to look at the black people. Anyways, so Knox is coerced into admitting to attacking Crow. They end up dragging him in and interrogating him and beating him up and telling him that he needs to do this, whatever. And he ends up admitting to, or he didn't admit to it, but they end up taking him in, and he gets excused. Rumors spread after that. After Knox gets put into jail, rumors end up spreading that there were other accomplices. All of a sudden. No real evidence. It was just, let's point
somebody's word. Anyway, go ahead.
It was just, so anyways, September 10th, accomplices are then named at this time, and that is Rob Edwards, which is Knox's primo or cousin, and then in white people fashion, I'm just going to tell you, in white people fashion, 2,000 white men broke in and dragged Edwards outside and ended up lynching him before he was even able to like have an actual trial. So there was no due process for him. They was just like, you did it, end of story, that's it, dead and done. And they went ahead and they lynched him. And they took him out of the jail. They broke into the jail and they took him out, right? He was 24 years old and left behind his wife, Jane Trussie Daniel. She was still a Daniel because they was only married through common law. Anyway, some days after that, 3 more black residents of Oscarville end up being arrested. Jane Daniel, Oscar Daniel, which is Trussie's brother, and Ed Collins also end up being arrested. Now, keep in mind, Mr. Knox is still in prison. He's still up in that jailhouse, and so was the other people for the original B&E. Yeah. So now you have, out of the 37 black population that is there, you have about half. You have about a third. You have about a third that's up in there, right? So anyways, and then again, white people, being the privileged people that they are, end up terrorizing the black community in Forsyth with threats, destroying property, raiding homes, arson, to try to get people to leave. Because at this point, they're creating fear, they're fear mongering, and they're saying that these black people are out here killing us, and so on and so forth, which...
Mind you, they had just killed somebody. There was
one person that was murdered, and they didn't do an investigation on anybody else. Nobody else. It was just that somebody pointed a finger, and that was that on that on that on that.
That's all it took, girl.
That's all it took. So anyways, they start going around and they start shooting up buildings and stuff like that in Oscarville. We're in Oscarville now, so it bled from Forsyth over into Oscarville because Knox had family and he just moved and his family was in Oscarville, but he happened to be in Forsyth at the time anyways. So it just bled over. They're very close cities. So there were actually notices that were dispersed encouraging black families to leave Forsyth. On September 23rd, May Crow dies. Jane Daniel, Oscar Daniel, Ernest Knox, and Ed Collins are all charged with murder and sexual assault. Again, there's no actual witnesses. Like, there's no real evidence to this shit.
It's just somebody's word.
It's just somebody pointed the finger, just like the lady with the B&E. She said one black man, and then all of a sudden it was 5 black men. And it was just an excuse for white people to try to get rid of black folks. That's what it was. Because Oscarville was actually starting to become a thriving community. Because that's what white people do. They destroy shit.
We're going to be talking about a lot of the communities that were destroyed by white folks being mad.
Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about a lot of that. Okay, so then the trial is on October 3rd. This is for May Crow's murder and the sexual assault. The trial's on May 3rd. Their lawyers object to defending them. So the judge at the time appointed them lawyers, and the lawyer was like, I'm not defending them at all. I'm not doing that. So they basically go in without any fucking type of lawyer, right? Between the 3rd and the 4th of October, they're found guilty. On October 25th is the execution. They scheduled the execution for all of these people. So you have, let's go back to those names, right? You have Ernest Knox. You have Rob Edwards, who ended up being lynched. And then you have Jane Daniel, Oscar Daniel, and Ed Collins as well. The execution is scheduled for the 25th. The judge says that it needs to be private.
Of September?
October.
Oh, of October.
Yeah. So they were accused in September, and they are found guilty. And, well, one man was already murdered. And they are found guilty and sentenced to an execution, which at that time for black people was lynching. I mean, it was a lot of things, but primarily people did lynching. So judge says that they want the lynching to be private. Some white doctor ends up offering his land for the private hanging so that the family can come and attend and so on and so forth. But again, in white people fashion, they tear down all of the fences that are around the private hanging, and thousands of people end up showing. I'd like to add,
it was a spectacle to watch black people get lynched.
I'd like to add, and this is not talked about a lot in normal public school and private school history. Lynchings were parties. They were picnics. They would actually lynch a man or a woman, and then they would have picnics around their body, and they would have their children, and they would take photos. And these photos would be put on postcards, and these postcards would be sent off to family members and stuff like that, and just tell everybody, hey, look what we did. This was a really good time. So lynching, just the fact that is used as an execution is barbaric in general, but the way white people pushed it to the limit as it was a celebration, it was something to celebrate. So the fact that these people tore down this fence and thousands of people rushed in and were like, we want to watch this shit, let's go ahead and watch it.
And I guarantee you, it was men, women, and children.
It was men, women, and children that were all there. They brought their kids.
Yeah, it was a thing.
It was a spectacle.
If you look at pictures from, I mean, because the 1900s, like the early 1900s, is not far away, to be honest.
Yeah.
And you look at those pictures, and you will see kids and you'll see people hanging in the background.
Yeah.
It was such a such a common thing. It's so sad, but like, yeah, that wasn't like we need to show the kids. That's what's so anyway, because I'm about to go into, it's just what's so interesting about the fact that like the people who are over education currently are so worried about the fears and the feelings of these little kids, the white kids having their little feelings hurt when it comes to the stuff that they will learn in these schools and why they want to take certain things out of the books. It's so interesting because it's like, these are the same kids that y'all was taking to lynchings. What you mean?
Exactly.
You worried about their feelings being hurt about some shit that they family members did.
Yeah.
Like why is that a thing?
Because the thing is though, is that lynching and all of that shit didn't just stop within, it's not like it happened 100 years ago. These things are still occurring. There is shit like this that is still occurring. There's actually a whole, anyways, these things are still happening. So we're going to keep on keeping on. So around the end of 1912, right? All of this started September of 1912. That is September, October, November, December. That is 4 months. By the end, most of the black residents were already forced out. So white people were like, we don't want you here. We're going to force you out. which is kind of wild because it's like gentrification now, except they do it through legal terms. They do it legally.
It's actually really crazy because a lot of the historical stories of areas that used to be like completely populated by Black people or that were thriving Black communities were completely destroyed and demolished by white people for those exact reasons. But there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them, and that happened to a lot of those communities because that was the problem.
Yeah.
It's just there's so many of them, and we will talk about a good chunk of them.
We are going to talk about as many as we can. Honestly, we're going to try to fit as many as we can, especially some of the ones that most people don't know about.
Right.
You know, you have Black Wall Street, which is very,
very
very
a lot
famous.
Of people know
a
that
lot
one.
of people
Yeah.
know that one, but not a lot of people know about what happened in Atlanta, the Atlanta massacre. Not a lot of people know about what happened in Ocoee. Not a lot of people know about what happened in Wilmington. Not a lot of people know what happened in Eatonville. Not a lot of people know.
Yeah, Eatonville, Rosewood.
I mean, that's just Florida. Those are 3 in Florida.
God, that is just.
That's just 3 of Florida. But I do want to add, so the Beaufort Dam was built. So this is 1912. Black people were forced out.
We just gone through so much.
Yes, and such a short,
and still somehow managed to thrive and create and invent and do things to help other people.
Not just crime and create and invent and do all of that, but y'all do it better.
Girl.
Y'all do it better, because here's the thing: you guys come out with something new. Say, like, for instance, with TikTok, right? Y'all come out with some new dance, right? There was that time where Black people fucking they protested. We ain't creating shit. Did you see the white dances that came out? They was absolutely terrible.
So, what was it? What song was it? It was a Meg Thee Stallion song.
Girl, it was
I don't
so
remember.
bad.
It was the most bland ass, unseasoned ass dance I've ever seen in my entire damn life.
It looked like raw chicken was just flailing around on there.
Unwashed.
It was unwashed. Unseasoned raw chicken. I mean, but that's the thing. It's like, in all actuality, I'm sorry, ethnic people, their culture, Black people, Latino people, Latina people, all of them, we just do it better. We do it better because we have flair and we have culture. And the thing is like, white people culture is just boring as shit. It's just boring. And everything about white people culture is pillaging and stealing shit from other people.
I'm not gonna lie though, they do that shit so well. I
dude.
mean, like, if they gonna do it, they do it hard. They have become they professionals at that shit.
They're professionals at it.
I'm like, you know what?
They swooped in and took a whole country and wiped out an entire race, an entire group of people
and was just
who were living here and just wanted to welcome them in.
They gonna do it. They gonna do it hard, and you know what? Kudos
hard
to them, because they really was like, you know what? We got to figure out what we're great at. And they was like, we're great at taking shit.
We are great at taking
and killing
shit.
People out.
Yeah.
But they're concerned about,
and also playing the victim,
but they're concerned about people of color that's gonna do that. History has shown. Anyway,
time and time again. So I'm gonna go.
We're never gonna get through these episodes.
Girl, we're gonna get through them. They just might be a little bit longer.
We're gonna be angry all the time.
Just look. Probably.
And another thing, these bitches hate white people.
Listen. Not wrong. So anyways, the Beaufort Dam was built on the Chattahoochee River in 1947 to regulate flooding and to create Lake Lanier. So between 1912 and 1947, they did not destroy, they did not take down Oscarville, they just flooded it. They said, fuck this history, fuck this place, we're gonna flood it, right? Lake Lanier is actually named after a Confederate poet and veteran. They left the abandoned structures, and some believe that the lake is haunted because there's a number of drownings and deaths that occur that are mysterious, which honestly, kudos to them. I hope those ghosts come up and pull them by the legs and take them down.
I mean, people have had accounts of like feeling something,
their foot
or
being
like
and stuff like that.
There was actually one person that survived and kind of gave their recount on it, but I guess that was kind of one of the things where there's been experiences had.
Yeah, experience has been had. All right, so to continue on a lighter note.
All right, so this is one of my topics. It's going to be a fairly short topic just because this was the last one, and I'll do my longer one in a second. But I wanted to talk about some Black inventors, and this Black inventor is a woman who is she's Dr. Let me give her props. Dr. Marion Croak.
Okay.
Croak. She is she had a huge impact in the communication technology up today.
Yeah.
And homegirl, so in the 80s, first of all, she's like, she's good. She's good.
I love it. Already, I love it.
She's the reason why we have a lot of the things that we use today, and a lot of the things that they didn't think could exist.
Yeah.
She used to work for AT&T Bell Communications or something like that in the 80s, and she was like, hey, this internet thing might be a thing.
Yeah.
Like, maybe we should kind of get on top of it. Maybe, hey, this company, AT&T, maybe you want to, like, hop into maybe using this internet thing to do other things. And they were like, no, girl, sit down. It's not going to be. And she was like, hey, no, I really think you should listen to me.
Yeah.
They eventually listened to her, and I'm grateful that she did, because she was the one that created the voice over internet protocol. So the VoIPs.
Ooh.
She's the reason why she came up with those technologies, those protocols. Her whole team, they came up with that, and they use those for everything.
Yeah.
So if you use FaceTime, if you use Skype, if you've had to do a voice meeting with your job, her protocols and things were set in place that allowed that to exist. She pretty much came up with the technology. So the VoIP technology it allows for the voice to be converted into digital content to go over the internet instead of having to do it through just the regular. Yeah, she was one of the people. She also happened to be one of the people that created the like touch tone options for things for phones. She also was a person that came up with the text to donation options that existed. So when Hurricane Katrina happened, she actually came up with that. They were able to raise I want to say a couple $100,000 for that, like a little over $100,000 for that. And also they used those same text donations for the not hurricanes, I'm sorry, earthquakes in Haiti. Which I think produced like some type of $1 million.
Yeah, they came up with a lot with
and she's the reason why that exists. So she
kudos to her, Miss Croak.
She came up with that, and it's
Dr. Croak.
Dr. Croak came with that, and it's just so funny because she was working in a field that was mostly like white men, and she was she was a little bit I don't want to say pressed, but like they were not wanting to listen to her and her thoughts and her ideas until she had a meeting one day and stood up for herself, and her boss came over to her and was like, hey girl, I'm really glad that you said that and that you stood up for yourself. And it allowed her to realize that she had a voice and to really put a lot of things in place. She is the reason why we have the things that we have today when it comes to our communications.
God, that's
so anytime
badass.
you turn on that FaceTime, anytime you
a
call
black
somebody,
woman did it.
Yeah, anytime you want to call somebody on Instagram video or whatever, that's who you think. She's the one that had those technologies for the
So all these racist ass white people out here, just remember that when you turn on your phone and you decide to FaceTime your racist ass friends. A black woman did that for you.
So I do want to say she does have she currently works at Google. She's a VP of their engineering department at Google. Because all of this stuff, the thing that's so interesting about a lot of these inventions and the inventors and a lot of the things that have happened over history is that these people either are still alive or have lived in the time that most of us have been alive.
Yeah.
Some of these people, like my other person that I will be talking about later on, she was alive while I was alive. And she did some amazing things for science and technology and such. So it is amazing that she was able to come up with this, and just it's very interesting. So thank you, Dr. Marion Croak, for your contribution to communications.
Love that. Love that. All right, so we're going to get into Eugene Bullard. Okay, so I heard about Eugene Bullard a while back, and I actually have the book. It's called All Blood Runs Red. And I haven't had a chance to read it, but there is a book about him that's out if you want to check it out. So Eugene Bullard is born October 9th, 1895. He was a former slave. He had a shitty childhood. So he dipped out at 11. He dipped out. He was like, I ain't doing this shit anymore. My daddy's an alcoholic. He keeps beating the shit out of me. I'm not doing this shit anymore. He dipped. By 1912, he hitched a ride to on the Marta Russ, which was a German freighter. He landed in Scotland, made his way over to London, and became a boxer. So in 1913, he boxed in France. He loved being there so much that he made a home. He ended up like being like, I just want to fucking be here. Like, I'm treated normal. I'm treated equally for the most part. He's like, I'm treated equally. But he later wrote, it seemed to me that the French democracy influenced the minds of both black and white Americans there and helped us all act like brothers. So he felt real good there. He was like, I'm gonna stay there. He said, I'm not, we ain't going back over there. All right. So this guy was amazing. He truly was fucking amazing and did so much in his lifetime. It was wild. So by 1914, Bullard enlisted in the French Foreign Legion for World War I, because at this time World War I's happening. He said, okay, cool. He was seriously wounded in 1916 at the Battle of Verdun. While he was recovering, his friend came to him and was like, I bet you $2,000 that you wouldn't be able to come and pilot. And he said, say the fuck less, right? Say the fuck less. And by November, right? So 1916, they make the fucking bet. by November 1916, he won the bet. And he ended up becoming a pilot, and he ended up joining the French flying service. He received his wings in May of 1917. So he was quick with it. Very smart dude. Was out here and was like, I'm going to make this shit happen. You can't fuck with me and give him my $2,000. Right. He claimed 2 aerial victories by September 1917, right? So from May to September, he claims 2 victories. He's actually said to be one of the first black pilots. Nice. One of the very first black pilots. So it also said that he had an insignia on his little fighter plane. It wasn't really like a jet, but you know what I mean. A little thing that he was riding around in. Yeah. He had an insignia with a heart with a dagger that was going through it with blood dripping off of it, and it said "All blood runs red." So it was cool because there's a bunch of pictures with him. He flew with a rhesus monkey. The monkey was named Jimmy. Oh. That was his buddy and pal and friend. And he flew with the monkey. He flew with the monkey everywhere. So Bullard actually ended up trying to join the U.S. Air Service when they joined the war in 1917, but he was rejected due to being black. So he had already been a pilot.
It was like, we need help, but we don't need that much help.
We don't need your help. We don't need your help. We don't need your help. Which is so wild because the black people were actually a huge contributing factor in World War I.
Which always... Sorry, go ahead.
Huge contributor. I mean, we were just literally talking about the Harlem Hellcats. Yeah. So I'm like, anyways, continuing on because this is a good story, right? This is about a man who did beautiful things in life. So anyways, he ended up being discharged from the military, the French military, by 1919. He ended up owning a nightclub in France. He owned another bar that was an American-style bar. He operated athletic clubs. He did all sorts of shit. I mean, he was very, big in his community and was actually very successful here. By 1939, World War II began. That's when Bullard became involved in espionage activities against French fifth columnists who supported Nazis. So he was like, fuck this. I'm about to I don't care about nothing else because all my bars and shit are going to be gone anyways. He's like, I'm going to start fighting against the war in the best way that I know how to do. And that's been through espionage. Then he ended up joining the 51st Infantry Regiment and he was a machine gunner. He was injured again because he was injured before, remember? So he was injured again. And then he became very, very afraid of getting captured by the Nazis. Because Nazis at the time were doing all sorts of experiments on all sorts of different people, but especially black people. They was doing crazy ass experiments on twins, black people, Jews, all sorts of shit. So he fled to the U.S., right? Keep in mind, this man did all sorts of stuff. He was a pilot. He has awards. He had a nightclub. He was owning all sorts of stuff. He was doing beautifully and thriving successfully. He gets to the U.S., he becomes a security guard and a longshoreman because nobody else will hire him any other place. So he was like a bellboy. He was like a bellhop that was like, let people... Anyways. Eventually, while he was here, he ended up taking up the cause of civil rights. And in the summer of 1949, he was beaten by police. Then there was another incident where he was told to sit in the back of the bus, right? So he came from France, right? He went to France. He went to London young, became a boxer, boxed in France, and was in France at a very young age, right? So between the time he gets to France, which was 1912, to the time he comes back and he starts getting into civil rights, that's like a good 35 years, 36 years. That's like a long time, right? So he gets involved with civil rights and he does all of this and he's being beaten by police. He has been told he needs to sit in the back of the bus. He basically was like, fuck this. I'm out. I don't want to deal with this racist ass fucking place. This place is trash. I'm going back to France. I'm going to go right back to fucking France. But when he got back to France, he couldn't get his life together there either. It just wasn't working out for him. Like he didn't have the nightclub anymore. He had to leave everything because the war destroyed everything. Yeah. So it was very hard for him to rebuild back there. But the French ended up celebrating the fuck out of this man. By 1954, he was chosen to relight the everlasting flame at the tomb of the unknown soldier in Paris, which is a huge deal. In 1959, he was made Knight of the Legion of Honor. And then he ended up passing away shortly after that. So he lived a long life.
He did live a long life.
This man was alive in the 60s. He was alive in the 60s.
Yeah.
That's less than 100 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. I don't know why.
My parents were born in the 60s.
My dad was born in 1956. He in the other room.
Yeah.
I'm just like, this is
that's why a lot of this is so funny because it's like like most of our parents or grandparents were literally existing during the lifetime, during when all of this was occurring.
Yeah.
It's not that far off. My
grandfather was alive for this.
Yeah.
You know what? It's just, anyways, it's just
But
crazy.
it was so long ago, and we should just forget.
It was just so long ago. And, critical race theory is a big problem. But in 1991, there was a bronze portrait head of Bullard donated to the National Air and Space Museum, created by a black sculptor, Eddie Dixon. And usually I don't like to be like, black sculptor or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But I want to give recognition where recognition is due, because 1991 black people were still struggling, as they are still today, to be able to actually get up in life and in the arts and stuff like that. So he made this beautiful bronze sculpture. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous, and he ended up donating it in honor of him, because his life was beautiful. I mean, he did amazing things, and the U.S. just left, right, and center was like, fuck you.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna do this shit.
That's what they did for a lot of people.
They did. But I just thought it was so interesting that Europe really is a lot more progressive. Always has been. French in particular. The French in particular. Although Josephine, she did like them ting nongs though. So
yeah, she did. She kind of,
she was like, I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna make it mine. Haute couture.
Yeah.
Anyways, but that was Eugene Bullard. You can definitely check out his book and read about some of his history.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
That was a lot of good, like really great information. Because I didn't know all that about him.
Yeah, he was a boxer, a fucking pilot.
I knew he was a pilot, but that was literally all I knew about his life, was that he was a pilot. I mean, I knew he did a lot with flying, but I didn't know he was a boxer. I didn't know about all the spaces that he owned. I just didn't know any of that. So that was really that was really cool information.
He was out here and in the fucking early 1900s.
Yeah.
Which was hard for black people to get anywhere at that time.
It's crazy to think that because of how long the 1900s is, that could be the time that he was born, but that's a lot of time when most of us were born.
Well, he was born in 18 something.
Oh, he was born in the 18 something.
Yeah, he was a slave. Okay. He was originally a slave.
Okay. But still, like, that's wild.
Mm-hmm. But slavery ended way before he. Anyways.
Yeah.
Anyways.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So mine is like a connected one. It's like a joint one that we're going to go with. So I am talking about Wilberforce University. Wilberforce University is my alma mater. And I wanted to talk about it because a lot of people do not know about it. A lot of people, I myself didn't know about it before I actually went to the school. And so I wanted to talk about it because it is the first private HBCU in the country. I want to reiterate, it is the first private HBCU in the country. I have to say private because it is not the first HBCU in the country, but it is the first private. So I want to make that very clear. But Wilberforce University is in Wilberforce, Ohio, which is it's a very small town. It's probably about 25 minutes away from Dayton, Ohio. So not too far off. It's low key in the cornfields. Actually, not low key. It's high key in the cornfields. If there's still corn there. Time is climate. It's been crazy. Who knows if it still produces corn?
Who knows?
But anyway, it is so Wilberforce, Ohio is school. It houses two HBCUs actually. So it is Wilberforce University, but also Central State, which is not far from the school.
Nice.
And those are the two. Central State is a public school, and Wilberforce is a private. But anyway, the school was founded in 1856, and it was named after William Wilberforce, who was a British abolitionist. So it was named after him. There's a lot of history with Wilberforce, which is very interesting. So when you talk about Wilberforce, you also kind of have to talk about Xenia, Ohio. So Xenia, Ohio had a lot of free black people, as well as a lot of slavery white people in the area. And so this area, Xenia, Ohio, was used during the Underground Railroad to help the passage of black slaves to freedom. And so when I first got to this school, this is just kind of a little tidbit, but when I first got to the school, we have this school bus that went around to drop us off to take us to town because it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. And the driver of the school was named Wilbur.
I love that.
And Wilbur would take us around Xenia and show us the areas in which the Underground Railroad kind of like passed through. And he would tell us about like the history and how all of that took place in this town, which I didn't know at the time that it even went up that high. I just didn't. It's just the things you just don't know. When
Yeah.
you hear about like, when you think about your education in school, you hear about the Underground Railroad and you think it's like in the South, and you know it's like in other places, but you don't really think it's in maybe the area that you happen to be in.
Yeah.
And it was. So it was kind of cool. So it had a bunch of great success from 1856 to about 1862. Around 1862, Civil War starts popping up. Stuff gets kind of bad financially. They're like, we can't really handle it. Enrollment wise, they just don't have the people. So they end up having to shut down. And about 1863, because they were pretty quick, they were like, all right, we got to get this thing going again. Bishop Daniel Payne, he ends up buying all the property and is like, hey, we're going to reopen the school. It's going to be greater than ever. They're like, cool bet. So Daniel Payne is a bishop. He is part of the AME Church, which Wilberforce is a AME faith-based school. So between the AME, which is African Methodist Episcopal Church, something like that, and then you had the ME, which was also it was the Methodist Episcopal Church. They had those people from Cincinnati. So those people were typically like the white people who were also in support of, and they also had the AME Church. Yeah, with that backing. So they got that whole thing set up, and so I took history of the Woo, but I don't remember none of that because it's been a lot of years since I've been at the school.
We old shit.
I just don't remember a lot of stuff, to be honest. But this was during the time where, you know, Black people were just not completely like just set free, and so they were not allowed to really just get the education that they wanted, and this school existed to allow Black people to get education and to learn different things and be and come to an area that they were free. Mind you, this is around this time. This is between 1856 and 1862, but people weren't technically like free all over until 1865. Yeah. Well, 1863 technically, but like 1865 people like knew in Texas. Like, everybody was aware. Yeah. By 1865. Yeah. So you have this whole school that existed to Black people. I don't want to say alone, but to Black people alone. Yeah. In 1856, which is a big deal.
That's a huge deal. That's a big deal.
It was one of the
in Ohio.
In Ohio. So Ohio is very weird because certain parts of Ohio are still very that.
Oh, I know.
You know what I mean? So to find out that particular area was so was pretty progressive in the helping folks and really had that type of environment there was insane. Okay, so the school honestly has been through a lot. It's been through a lot, and the fact that it has stood around for as long as it has is pretty amazing. It's nothing short of amazing, to be honest. But the school had a fire in 1865. Now, the thing that's really interesting about it is because they had it as arson, but they couldn't like really say where it came from. But like schools just don't catch fire by themselves.
They really don't.
So like, and it burned the building down. One of the main buildings of this school completely burned down. Yeah. Completely burned down. And so they rebuilt it with bricks and all of that, but it was destroyed. And then in about, I want to say 1974, huge tornado wiped out a crap ton of shit too. Damn. It was bad. Like there was just a lot of stuff that happened to that school. They've also had issues with like financially and things like that. So it's just been a lot of things that have happened over time. And you know, it's always to hopes that they'll be able to come out of things, keep it like
I mean they seem to pull themselves out.
I mean every time, honestly, every time. The fact that it has, honestly though, it's kind of sad because you think about it from 1856 to now, that's only 169 years. About what year is it?
Yeah. That's about 3 generations of people.
That's not a lot of time. It's not a lot of time at all. Okay. So the school colors are green and gold. And the motto is Sua Marte. It's an amazing HBCU. It is a very small school. So if it is something that you're looking into, there's definitely websites. They have Instagrams. They have different things that show all the programs that they offer. They have a band now. They have different things, the gymnastic programs that just started. There's a lot of things that are happening for the school, which is amazing, and they're doing great things. They have different programs and activities that did not actually exist when I went to school there. So it's pretty cool that they're able to grow and do the things that they're doing. And so I just wanted to shed light on this university because it is the first private HBCU, and most people are not familiar familiar with it. If you know somebody that goes there, it may be somebody that happens to live in the area, or you just happen to know somebody that knows somebody that went there.
Yeah.
Most people are not familiar with that being an HBCU. So I wanted to just shed light on it because it is a school that I went to, and it was an experience that I absolutely loved and wouldn't change for the world. And I just wanted to let you guys know about it. But something that was really cool about the school is that there are a lot of notable graduates of alumni of Wilberforce, not just graduates, but also staff. One in particular is Dorothy Vaughn. Dorothy Vaughn is who I want to talk about next.
Dorothy Vaughn.
Dorothy Vaughn. So if you guys have heard of Hidden Figures, Dorothy Vaughn is one of the people that was played by Octavia Spencer. She was a Wilberforce graduate, and she graduated from Wilberforce with her bachelor's in mathematics in 1929. Homegirl was insanely smart. I mean, insanely smart. It makes no sense. Her knack for math and her just understanding and just it is amazing to have that during those times.
Hell yeah.
And Homegirl was born in like 1910, I want to say, or something like that. Something like that. Not to
just be a woman, but a black woman to do it.
But with just that type of smarts for math is just, it's mind-blowing to me because I just don't understand math in that way.
Yeah.
I just don't. I know that about myself, but she understood numbers in a way that is just unreal. And she was able to do and create these things with these numbers because of her understanding.
Hell yeah.
So homegirl went to school. She graduated from Wilberforce in 1929. And she had like an advisor that was like, hey girl, you probably should like go get your graduate degree at Howard, which is another HBCU. Most people are super aware of Howard University.
Yeah.
So she was like, nah, I'm good. But she's like, I can't really go. She didn't say, no, I'm good. She was just like, I can't really go right now because like, so homegirl was like, I can't go to graduate school because I need to work because it's the Great Depression.
Yeah.
And I got to make sure that my people are good. So she went to go work as a teacher in Virginia, and she was teaching math in different schools in Virginia. And then it came to a time where they were like, hey girl, you want to come join this department over here? We got this department that we just created. It's the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics. It was NACA. And she was like, hey, cool. There was a little sector of women that were doing mathematics. And so this is what's so interesting. They had different sectors in NACA that allowed people to work on their computers, they didn't have like computers. They were human computers. But this is a time during segregation.
Yeah.
So you have different sections of these people who are working on these different programs. They're all working together for the same thing, but they're all separate areas.
That's
and
crazy.
They had all the women in different areas. And so she worked in that sector for a while. And then in 1943, she started working for the Langley Research Center in the sector known as the West Area Computing, also segregated.
Yeah. That's wild.
So like I said, this is during the time of Jim Crow. So there was segregation. There was her and some other black women that were in this area, in this unit.
And she still thrived.
First of all,
anyways,
these women not only did these complex like mathematic equations and complex just computing, they were literal computers in human form.
Brilliant.
Through all of the discrimination, they still were able to come up with this information to help propel America in their aeronautics and everything that they could do. They literally helped propel all of these people.
Brilliant.
It was insane. So Homegirl was one of the first black supervisors of NACA. So she had a white counterpart or a white supervisor ahead of her, and the only reason that she became I don't want to say the only reason she became supervisor, but the person that was ahead of her died. Then they was like, hey, we're gonna put this lady in the supervisor position. She was the first black woman to do that.
Yeah,
she's actually one of the few black people to do it. There wasn't very many. I mean, it was
and
NACA.
To be a woman.
Yeah,
God, representing.
She was not only a phenomenal mathematician, but she was an amazing programmer, and she, again, insanely smart. Okay, so Sarah Vaughn, wow. Dorothy Vaughn was not only a phenomenal mathematician, she was an amazing programmer. And Homegirl was, like I said, insanely smart. She taught herself one of the huge programs in order to use it for the things that she was working on, which was called Fortran, I think. Yeah, Fortran. She taught herself how to use this programming, the language of it and all of it. And then she taught other people to use it.
That's crazy.
She became the lady to do it. She was like, hey, I know all the information about this shit. You guys
go ahead and just tell you.
She's like, I'm going to just teach you about it real quick because, hey, girls, we going to need to know this. She's like, she got all of her ladies together. She was like, hey, black ladies, we going to get this. We going to get this shit
I
on.
love that.
And they was like, yes, girl. Yes, we are.
I love
and
that.
so she taught them all this information and they used that and they applied it to the things that they were able to create. She ended up assisting in I don't know if I put this down or not. I don't know if I don't think I put it down, but she helped. So some of she helped in the programs that allowed man to get on the moon.
Nice.
She helped in a bunch of different launches and tests that they were doing. She assisted in 96 successful
love that.
Successful missions, pretty much.
Love that.
Her programming and all of the math that she had done, she was the one that helped propel that into this programs, to this not program, to this company group,
NACA
into NACA. So in 1958, NACA became NASA, so the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, and she would work in the same facilities because around this time they were like Jim Crow out, this isn't cool. She would end up working in those same facilities with white people, so there was no longer segregated, and she was able to work alongside of her counterparts in which she had been already working with to begin with. Now they just can breathe the same air.
Now they could just
So she was a pioneer in her field, not just for her work with NACA and NASA, but also in STEM overall. She advocated for women. First of all, she advocated for all women, period. All women, period, despite race. She didn't care. She was like, I want to make sure that all women can get raises. I want to make sure all women have opportunities to do this and this. That's what she did.
Love that.
That's what she did.
What a woman. What a woman.
She also did for promotions as well. And I think that's all I put. There was some other information I think I had said about her. I'd already mentioned Hidden Figures, didn't I? I mentioned Hidden Figures at the beginning. Okay. But yeah, Dorothy Vaughan was an amazing woman. She did some crazy things for space, for aeronautics in general. She was a huge pioneer in a lot of the technologies and things that are used today. Her math skills were crazy insane. And the thing that was so crazy, her calculations were so spot on.
Yeah.
That like if you took some of those calculations today and compared them, they would be. It's crazy that she was able to do that.
Yeah, girl, that's wild. She was brilliant.
Brilliant lady. Oh, she was so brilliant. But yeah, and she was. And then wait, and can I just also include? She was a mom of 6.
I love that. She was killing it and raising babies.
6.
Raising babies.
Homegirl did all of this with 6 chillins.
Absolutely the fuck not. I can't even do that and I don't have children. Love her. What a woman.
Mother, and freaking pioneer.
Yep.
Salutes to you, Dorothy Vaughan.
Love that. Thanks, girl, for your contribution.
And thank you for literally paving the way so that other women could do the things that they did in NASA.
Hell yeah.
It's incredible.
Incredible. Love that.
So that's all I had. I did my last one about Marion Croak already.
Cool. That was good, D.
Yeah.
That was dope.
She's great.
Well, thank you guys for another lovely episode of Bumpin' Gums. We appreciate you being here. Look forward to more episodes like this, especially for Black History Month. We can't wait to educate y'all and just info dump all of the shit that we find out and all the knowledge that we have, because I am definitely autistic. Deidre is probably autistic herself, and we just out here liking this shit. We are just out here liking this shit. So thank you all for being here. We appreciate y'all, and we'll see you next time. Bye nerds.